Hi everybody and welcome to Meet the Candidates Night. We really do appreciate everybody being here. It's strange to see everybody here. Just want to go over a few things before we get started. First of all, we would really appreciate it, and it is mandatory for everybody to keep their masks on, stay social distance, in this room, and any other guidelines which have been set forth. I just want to go through the procedures quickly before I announce the candidates here. Each candidate for the Board of Directors will be permitted to make a 3-minute presentation. The order of the presentation will be in the same order as listed in the ballot, which will be Walter Avelin, Michelle Didia, Arnold Corky Levine, Rick Schwartz, and Larry Silver. Okay. Both candidates running for the Condo 3 Board of Managers will give a 3-minute presentation directly before the Board of Directors candidates. Those two candidates are Lynn Goffin and Peter Varel. The Board of Managers candidates will not take part in the Q&A portion of the meeting. The order of the Condo 3 presentation will be in the same order as the ballot, which is Goffin and Varel. All homeowner questions to the Board of Directors candidates will take place after all candidates finish their presentation. 1 question per household will be permitted. A homeowner asking a question must identify himself or herself and then either direct a question to one candidate or ask a question for any or all candidates to answer. Candidates will have up to 2 minutes to respond. If another candidate wishes to respond to a question directed to another candidate, he or she may do so after the candidate to whom it was initially directed completes their response. These responses will also be limited to 2 minutes. I would like to introduce Lynn Goffin, who is running for Condo 3 Board of Managers. I'll get it to you in 1 second.
Why is this? Good evening, everyone. My name is Lynn Goffin, and I'm running for a position on the Board of Managers of Condo 3. My husband, Michael, and I have been residents here for 6 years. Soon after arriving at Meadowbrook Point, I recognized the absence of an organized community effort to welcome new residents to ease their transition. I decided to create the Welcome Committee to deal with this issue. Today, it connects new residents to the management of the community, as well as our various facilities, clubs, and committees. My Welcome Committee initiative has been very successful. I have also been a member of our cultural club for 6 years and have served on its board for the past 3 years. I have enjoyed participating in organizing a wide variety of trips to many different venues and events, and have appreciated the camaraderie of spending time with my fellow neighbors and friends. I have had a 30-year career as a teacher and have both strong organizational skills and a relentless work ethic. My decision to run for this board position is driven less by past experiences and activities, but more by what I see as the need for the board to interact with Condo 3 residents. To accomplish this, I proposed quarterly meetings with the captains of Condo 3, at which time all issues raised by Condo 3 residents and brought to each captain will be discussed. The minutes of these quarterly meetings will be forwarded by each captain to the residents of Condo 3. The issues raised at these quarterly meetings will then be brought to the Board of Managers' monthly meetings for discussion and resolution. Each condominium association has its own financial condition. This includes how our maintenance fees are distributed, our financial reserves, the name of our insurer, claims made against our policy, premiums paid, and current standing with the insurer. This financial information must be provided to Condo 3 residents as part of the Condo 3 minutes of each quarterly Condo 3 Board of Managers meeting. I am running for this position not because of the committees on which I serve or my personal views on HOA matters, but because our Board of Managers needs a fresh approach in communicating and interacting with the people who elected them to do so. If elected, I will pursue each and every change which I have recommended as our condo association heads into its 14th year of existence. I solicit your support in this endeavor. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Peter Varel, running for Condo 3 Board of Managers.
To my neighbors of Condo 3 and all here present for Meet the Candidates, welcome. My wife Kathy and I have lived at Meadowbrook Point for 11 years. 5 years ago, I was appointed to fill the opening when Condo 3 became an independent from the sponsor. I was part of the team that emailed the Condo 3 residents to notify them of our new status. You elected and trusted me to serve my own term as Condo 3 representative. Topics that I proposed for discussion in our monthly board of meetings have been included but not limited. Prior to closing of our clubhouse due to the health crisis, I reminded the staff that check IDs in the clubhouse. Requested replacement of dead bushes in the common areas within our borders of Condo 3. Requested replacement pointed out damaged umbrellas on the pool deck, which were repaired or replaced. At the request of a resident of Condo 3, a bench on Trotting Lane was repaired and then replaced. With the help of my co-managers, Jerry Caruso and Larry Broshin, we canvassed and encouraged our constituents to get out to vote their conscience on the proposed bylaws. Just a few moments ago, I proposed to the Board of Managers that captains give monthly reports on a quarterly basis. I am currently a member of the Security and Safety Committee. I bring to the committee 25 years experience of being a volunteer fireman with the Belrose Village Fire Department. As a responsibility of the Security and Safety Committee, I participated in the review process for several security companies, which finally led to the present security company. I was involved in a safety seminar conducted for the benefit of the residents, for which I provided permission from a booklet for older adults. I got a couple of copies. If you're interested, I'll give them out. 8 years ago, I initiated a review of the left turn signal. Then Senator Kent Hannan replied to my letter with showing it to the appropriate authorities. It was followed up by a property manager sending it to the Commissioner of Public Works. As you can see, trying to get that left-hand turn signal is a problem. For the past 5 years, I've attended the monthly Board of Managers meetings, and for the past 2 years, as your president, attended the monthly Board of Directors meetings as a non-voting participant. I'm familiar with the proceedings and the responsibilities on your Board of Managers. I wish to continue to be your representative and request your consideration for the next election. Thank you very much.
At this time, I'd like to ask Walter Avelin to come up and give his presentation. He is running for the HOA Board of Directors position.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Walter Avelin. My wife, Kathleen Kearns, and I have resided here in Meadowbrook Point since November of 2019. We came to Meadowbrook Point from a home out in further east in Long Island because we liked the lifestyle, we liked what Meadowbrook Point had to offer. It's a beautiful, beautiful community. When I tell people that I live in Meadowbrook Point, they're like, wow, it's beautiful there. And yes, it is. It is extremely beautiful here. It's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and it's a community effort. It's not just the board. There's a lot of people that should be involved with it. I'm currently employed by Macy's Incorporated. I'm their governmental affairs law enforcement liaison for the country. I deal with different governmental agencies around the country, mostly centered now in our larger markets, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and I deal with the different agencies.
They're not hearing you well outside. You might want to talk closer to the microphone.
Can you hear me now? All right. So, I'm employed by Macy's. I do governmental affairs for them. I deal with different locales around the country. My main focus now is in New York City. I've been with Macy's in October. It's going to be 32 years. I'm also a retired New York City police officer. I was injured in the line of duty many years ago. I had worked for Macy's before. And when I was injured, Macy's asked me to come back. I am also the chairperson of a Catholic academy in Flushing, New York, St. Michael's Catholic School, where I went to school many, many years ago. Before I move further, I just like to thank everyone on the board for the job they do and the people here who are running. As we all know, it's a thankless job, but it's a job that needs to be done. The people from the board should not be at the pool having to look to make sure the lifeguards are in the right spot or there's lights on. That's what we have a management company for. Some of the mantras in my life are integrity always, inspect what you expect, and teams win. In an environment like this, you need to have a teams win attitude. I believe I was the only person who answered the question from the blog we have here. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, you do have blogs like that. And if you really look at them, it's probably a small group of people who are complaining most of the time. I think we have to inspect what we need to inspect. We need to look at different things. We need to look at the guards when you come in. That's the first impression people get when they come in here to buy. We want them to look impressive. We want them to look like, wow, that's Meadowbrook Point. We need our management company, not just one person to be the person that's always called upon. I believe the garage needs a lot of work. My garage was just cleaned and it's still filthy. So again, inspect what we inspect, and we have to get our management company, I believe, a lot more involved in the day-to-day operation here. I'm available at any time for anybody to reach out to me. My email address was on my resume that I sent out. And again, I'd love to become a board member and take Meadowbrook Point to that next level where it should be. Thank you.
Michelle Didia, running for HOA Board of Directors.
I'm short. Hi, my name is Michelle Didia. I moved to Meadowbrook Point from Woodmere with my husband Bobby 2.5 years ago. My professional experience includes 20 years early childhood educator, skills exhibited, patience, dedication, and imagination. President, Lawrence School District 15 PTA. With tenacity, resourcefulness, and high energy, I mobilized other parents to fight the closing of a model early childhood program. To date, it remains open, serving the needs of the children. Administrator for 3 cosmetic dental practices. Skills required, excellent people skills, multitasking, quick learning, and enthusiasm. Responsibilities included financial reports, budget preparation, working with consultants on marketing plans for business growth, and website development. Right now, I'm the office manager of the Premier Properties, the Meadowbrook Point on-sale resale office. I learned up front and in person about the resale market of our homes. I now have a more definitive understanding of the desires and expectations of property owners. I may not have the standard business resume. Still, my experience is in fact very relatable for our population's encounters, difficulties, and perceptions. After taking up residence at Meadowbrook Point, another newcomer and I recognized the need for a club unlike any other. On Point Friends was created to benefit all of the Meadowbrook homeowners, both men and women. My experience with the formation and subsequent resistance and failure of the club schooled me to the inner workings of Meadowbrook's multifaceted bureaucracy. It is my hope to use this education to create some needed change. Recently, our lives have been transformed. COVID has been a challenge. Residents have become frustrated with the lack of transparency and dysfunction. This causes rumors to fly, complaints, and apathy ensues. I am determined to root out the problems that create disharmony and commit to a policy of reason with timely communication, thereby diffusing resentment. I am an independent and creative thinker. I listen, research, and evaluate. When I'm satisfied, I work with tenacity. We are a vibrant, diverse association with a common goal to better our community and lives. All of you deserve accountability and respect, and your active participation on the varied committees is essential to a successful community. If you vote for me, you have my personal promise that I, with my female sensibilities, innovation, and solid work ethic, will deliver on that commitment. Thank you for your consideration.
Corky Levine.
From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I'm not going to bore you with my past credentials. What I want to impress upon you in 3 minutes is what I can do as a board member, what I can offer you, and what I can offer myself, my family, my friends, and what I hope will be my new friends here. 4 months, at least 4 years, 9 months ago, we moved to Meadowbrook Point for a sense of community. June 2019, we had a flood in our condo, and Elaine and I were on vacation. Our neighbors in the building came in, saved all of our artwork, over $75,000 worth of damage. Dave Goldstein, who I didn't know before, held my hand through the tears of my wife in the back over there, and my tears, and I couldn't have done it without the support of Dave and some of the other people along the journey. My wife wrote in that B word, the blog, about what life was for us while we were at Meadowbrook Point due to the pandemic. And if you know me or you know Elaine, she's on oxygen 24/7. We both pretty much have been self-quarantined. A woman named Luella periodically comes to the door with cleaning supplies for us. We wouldn't know Luella if we tripped over her. There's a woman named Joy here who dropped off candy at our house when she heard about what we were going through. That's what a community is all about. Howie Siegel, Bob Zarrow, they called me. Bob Zarrow's the building captain. Howie Siegel's one of the board of managers here. I want to tell you that if I'm elected, or I hope when I'm elected, action will be the only remedy to the indifference we've seen here at Meadowbrook Point. We have to move on to the next level. We are going to introduce here a concept at Meadowbrook Point called evolution, not revolution. Evolution as shown by my friend Len Oster in the back. There was a 3-year plan to make our gardening look better here. He did it. Tom Bergen laid out 5 things in that B word: transparency, forming committees. I am committed to implementing what Tom said and what all of my colleagues here have said. I'm going to close tonight because I heard the ding dong, and I'm not even through with the actions that I want to take on our behalf here at Meadowbrook Point. One of the first elections that I really understood was for John F. Kennedy, and his brother Robert spoke at the funeral. And there was a quote from Shakespeare, and I'm going to paraphrase the quote because I don't remember the quote exactly. And the quote was, my paraphrase is, people see things and say, why? My brother saw things and said, why not? As your representative on the board, I am committed to asking why not? Why not transparency? Why not a financial plan? Why not an organizational? I want to thank you all for attending. Thank you for watching on your computers. And thank you to my wife, Elaine, for her continued love and support yesterday, today, and tomorrow.
Thank you, Corky. All right, Rick Schwartz has the floor, running for Board of Directors.
Thank you for coming. My name is Rick Schwartz, and I'm running for one of the open seats on the board. We moved to Meadowbrook Point in 2009 and have been active in many activities since then. My business background includes owning a family import business which involved managing between 100 and 200 employees a year. This included all financial operations and managing a large sales force and warehouse. I've developed employee manuals for different corporations, and I'm currently working on a manual for Meadowbrook Point to include all our guidelines for our residents. I'm on the Board of Managers, and I'm currently the president of Condo 5. In this position, I have worked with the building captains to get problems in the individual suite buildings resolved and taking care of other resident complaints and problems. My goal was to have any problems taken care of immediately rather than having to wait for the monthly board meetings. I've been actively involved in the maintenance committee, and we're currently working on the water control meters to prevent leaks in our homes. I have had one of these installed for about 6 months and know that it works to save leaks, and it really should be installed in every house in this community. Also, we're currently in the process of having automatic garage door openers installed in all the garages in the suite buildings. I served on the bylaws committee for the first several years. I've been chairman of the Holiday Fund for the last few years, and I worked on it for several years prior. We have successfully raised money to give gifts to the employees at Christmas time. We'll be starting this year's Holiday Fund collection in the next few weeks. I've been the treasurer of the Meadowbrook Point Civic Association for the past several years, and since coming on the Civic Association board, I have actively been signing up many restaurants and other businesses to give our discounts to the residents here. After the pandemic passes, I will continue to speak to more businesses and add them to our list. In addition, the Civic Association has provided buses to the polling places in the past, and most recently distributed masks in the community. In addition, I've been in contact with the town of Hempstead about repainting the water tower that's on the west side of the community, because people have complained that it's an eyesore. However, it's currently on hold. And I also worked unsuccessfully to get the left turn signal. Serving on the cafe committee, I helped bring the new cafe vendor into the community when I signed him up for the Civic Association discount program. I'm also the Meadowbrook Point representative to the Nassau County Police Commissioners Council. In that capacity, I had no turn on red sign at Old Country Road in Zeckendorf fixed as it was a safety issue. Previously, I had worked to help get the bocce courts installed. I was on the board of the Meadow Hill Jewish Center, serving as treasurer and financial secretary for 30 years, and then followed that up at Midway Jewish Center in the same positions for 10 years. And I've been serving on the board of the North Shore University Hospital Auxiliary in Manhasset as a treasurer for 10 years. I've loved living here in Meadowbrook Point and look forward to your support to serving you on the HOA Board of Directors. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Larry Silver running for Board of Directors.
Good evening. My name is Larry Silver, and many of you already know me. I've lived here with my wife, Gail, for the past 13 years. Let me first start, and everyone did a wonderful job. Oh, I'm sorry. Everyone did a wonderful job today. I think any one of them could be a wonderful candidate for the board, and I certainly wouldn't not vote for any of them. But let me tell you a little about myself, my background. First of all, let me tell you a little about my experience in condo governance. Before I moved to Meadowbrook Point, I was the first elected president of the HOA at a new community called Windcrest, and I served on that till I moved here, so for about 2.5 years. Once I was here, I got involved in governance immediately. I was, along with 2 or 3 other people, I was an appointed director of the HOA. When the sponsor left, positions opened up, and I was made one of the appointed HOA directors, so I have a lot of experience. In terms of what else I do here, I am the co-chair of the fitness committee along with Dr. Don Mandel. My job was basically to set up the system of bringing in new equipment. I set up a bidding system, and that's how we get most of the new equipment, including the new floor. That rubber floor replaced the terrible carpet that was here before. I'm on the landscape committee, and I work very closely with the members of that committee, especially Lee. And I was charged with writing an RFP. I don't know if you all know what that is. It's a request for proposal. We don't use that here, and we should be. Every contractor should get the same list of things they have to bid on, and then we can compare apples to apples. We did it. It worked beautifully. We ended up with a wonderful contractor for landscaping here. The flowers are gorgeous, and yeah, it cost us a few dollars more, but it was certainly worth it. I'm also on the HOA Budget Committee. I was on the HOA Bylaws Committee. I'm coming to the board with all this experience. There are 3 things or 4 things I think we have to do. First of all, my last community, we held at least quarterly open meetings where residents could come to the HOA and tell us what we're doing wrong, what we do right, what we should improve, and I think that needs to be done here. When that was over, we had a closed 1-hour board of directors meeting, and we try to resolve the problem. So I believe in open meetings, at least quarterly. Probably that's more than enough to get enough people to show up. The second thing I would like to do is do something about the way we charge insurance here. I think you may all be aware that each condo pays its own insurance, and we have a real problem now. Our dues are going up, and we need to see if we can get a single contract for all 7 units. This has been tried before, and it hasn't worked. Thirdly, I'm interested in maintaining property values. We all paid a lot of money to move in here, and I'd like that to be a safe investment for us. And lastly, I think that every bid, large bid, requires an RFP. There's a lot of work, and that's it. I think we should do that. Every company does that. The last thing I think I should tell you is a little about my professional background. I have a doctorate in biochemistry. I've taught at a number of universities and medical schools. Currently, I'm working on the COVID virus. We're doing a vaccine, we're doing a therapeutic, and we're doing a diagnostic. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. At this point, we're going to open up the floor for questions. What we ask everybody to do is raise your hands. We will call on somebody in the audience, either inside or outside, to ask questions. We're going to do one question from somebody in person, and then we're going to read a question which was submitted into our questions box. When you come up, you're going to need to announce your name, direct the question towards a candidate, or state that the question is for any candidate to answer. Do we have any questions? Yes? Come on up.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Levy. I live in Building 19, and I have a friend who lives in Building 15, or lived. And I wanted to know, addressed to any of the members, in light of what happened to Building 15, what measures is the board going to take, or are they have plans to ensure that the same thing that happened there cannot happen to any of the other buildings? I think from other people I've spoken to, this is of great concern to other people.
Test, test. I have to be quite honest. If you don't know all the particulars about what happened, you can't give an educated answer. And I don't think anyone up here can answer with 100% of certainty what happened. In dealing with governmental agencies around the country, they can be extremely difficult to deal with. At one time, we had over 800 department stores. If there was an accident with an escalator, it would shut an escalator down for days and days and days. You have to speak to the right people. You have to make sure you have the right insurance, and you have to make sure you have the right team to go after whatever the issues is. I feel very bad for these people in Building 15. I'm an operational guy. I'm not going to plan a bus trip to Atlantic City. I'm not going to plan volleyball at the pool. But I'm going to look at ways to save money here. Everyone here has an investment, and no one wants their investment to drop. So what we need is we need to focus on the little things. The little things are what fall by the wayside. So with that said, I can't give you an answer on Building 15, but with my background in store operations and dealing with high-level decisions in a major company in the United States, I think I would offer the board a way to look into it and hopefully get the best response. Thank you.
Just for some clarification, I think we're all victims, to be honest with you. We all live here. We're all facing whatever 15 face, can be you next for Don Shore. I think it's also important that we get more clarification of the obligations of our HOA and our obligations of condos. I'm sorry. I understand it's very difficult to get condo insurance. That's one thing that I've been told. And the insurance company that we presently have, which is this Dongbu, a South Korean company, I looked them up and I can tell you they do have a very poor rating. Doesn't make it any better for all of us, but I do believe we are all victims. I think we have to be informed. I think people have to tell us more. It has to be more transparent so that this does not happen to any other building. More than that, I really can't say. I wish I could because I'm not on the board and I'm not privy to any of the information that's given. But I sympathize. It could be us next. Every building, no matter how old it is, faces the same problems as 15. My heart goes out to all of the residents of that building, and I hope that it doesn't happen again. But I think we have to be proactive.
This is a problem near and dear to my heart and my wife's heart and our friends who helped us out during our flood in June of 2019. This is a given. Off-premises housing for us was paid for by our insurance policy. It ran for us $29,900. We only had $30,000. So that had it taken longer than 4 months and 3 days, the money would have come out of, well, our kids' inheritance, probably. But we had to pay for it. So I just want to tell everybody in this room, go home and check your personal homeowners policies. You'll see that by increasing it $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000, $40,000 more will not be that more expensive. Then, when I'm on the board, lots of the questions which you're asking that I don't know about. I could not, as the resident, speak to the insurance company because I wasn't the insured. Those were the rules. I accepted the rules. I had people here who reached out, speak to the insurance company. It didn't help. However, we dealt with a company named ServPro, and the insurance company would not allow our floor to go under the cabinets in the kitchen. Well, if you check the way the policy reads, they're supposed to restore our condos to the original state before the flood. It took 6 additional weeks of management and ServPro fighting on my behalf. Also, public adjuster to work with you if it ever happens to you. And assures we're sitting here, and assures the sun's going to come up tomorrow, it will happen.
We can all sympathize with the problems that happened in 15, but none of the 5 people up here are on the board and are not privy to any of those discussions, and I have friends in that building too. However, what we've done is, I know the board here went around, there was no concrete underneath the electrical boxes, and I know that, and it was not code that it was required, but they said that there were leaves there that helped cause the fire or fan the flames, and what they did was the boards put in concrete underneath wherever it was missing before, just to help the situation. So we never know what's going to happen, and the next time it might not be that, but it'll be something else, and we have to look to prevent the problems before they start.
This is what I was talking about before about the insurance. So let me clear something up. There are 2 entities here, the HOA and the Board of Managers, and each condo has its own Board of Managers. The insurance that protects your property, all the buildings in your condo, whether it be 1 through 7, are owned by each of those condos, not the HOA. The HOA carries insurance on the common properties. I assume that means the clubhouse, the swimming pool, other things. But your building is insured by the Board of Managers. And we, every year, get a contract. Each individual condo has maybe 2 choices. We investigated this. There are only 3 or 4 companies, and David can make this even clearer. There are only 3 or 4 companies that will even write insurance for condos. So it's not like you can call in your broker that does your car and do this. So the HOA takes over the responsibility and oversees that everything gets fixed. Remember, you have to have your own insurance to protect your furniture, your carpets, etc. The HOA and the Board of Managers are only responsible for fixing the walls, the floors. And I know that I live in condo 4, and my insurance went up, my dues went up $125, and there were some people that went up $150, because I have only a villa, upper villa. Some townhomes went up $150 a month. That could happen to every one of you. Because we asked, why can't we get one policy? We're a big group, 7 homes. Well, we're individual units, and they told us we can't do it. That's what I was talking about. Okay? That's what I hope we can do to change.
Okay. We have a question here from Hank McMahon. To all candidates, to date, the HOA fails to communicate with the community. What would you do differently to open the lines of communication to all homeowners?
I think I've already discussed this as well. I didn't know these were going to be the questions. But we need an open meeting quarterly where you can come in and talk to the board and tell them we may have done something terribly wrong, and you should come and tell us about that. Or maybe you have a better idea. Maybe you know a better insurance company. I don't know. But the idea is, in my last community, we had open meetings. Yeah, the first time they were a little unruly, but eventually people settled down. And when the meeting was over, whether it lasted an hour and a half or an hour, we went into closed session to see if we could resolve some of the issues. If we could answer the question at that moment, we did it. If not, we tried to find a solution for it. But right now, the communication isn't as strong as it should be. I think an open meeting can cure a lot of that if you're willing to put the time in. Remember, you have to make that decision because you're the ones that have to come and tell us what the problems are. And I think that everyone is responsible for themselves, and they have to make that clearer. I know there's a lot of controversy about not printing minutes, etc. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I will tell you that Bob Gorman told us the right thing. The lawyers told him not to do that. And I was present when they said that at a CAI meeting with 2 sets of lawyers, that was 6 lawyers all told, said that you don't publish minutes. We can put them in the back and you can go read them, but they're not to be published. It's not about minutes. You need an open meeting where you can talk to the board directly and explain things. Thank you.
I agree with Larry that we should have open meetings. I also believe that when there's a problem that occurs in a building, and I had one of these in Condo 5 this week, the door wasn't working. The residents were not told on a timely manner when the repair was going to be made. The repair is going to be made tomorrow, but the email didn't go out. It took 5 days for the email to go out to notify them. I think as soon as it was discovered what the problem was and what the solution was, notification should have gone out immediately. So I believe in faster notification for the residents. In Condo 5, we've had communication. Whenever we have something of importance to tell, we email the residents of Condo 5. So I'm open to all sorts of communication, and the people who don't have emails, we would put it by their door because not everybody here gets email. So I'd like to have more open communication and faster communication to what's going on.
Firstly, I just want to say that when the publication of those minutes ceased, it immediately created a lack of credibility by the board. And it caused a rift between the residents and the board that still exists to this day. It still exists to this day, but as an optimist, I truly believe that there's still time to make things better and to have more open communication. I mentioned it to some women that were sitting at the pool the other day, and I said, you know, the minutes are available for you to see at any time. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, the minutes are at the concierge desk, and the only limitations that you have is that you cannot write down any notes or take any pictures. However, they are there. So I don't know how many people are aware of it, but they do exist. And it's important that if you do have questions that went on at a board meeting, you go to the concierge, you ask to see those minutes, and they will be given to you. They're not under lock and key. They are secured, but you do have the right to see them. And I don't know how many people are truly aware of this situation, but I do believe in open forums. I think the board should have open forums that are scheduled, that residents can meet with board members and speak to them and take care of any questions that they have. but they have to be scheduled, not just, oh, once in a while we're going to have an open forum. I think you need to have open forums that are on the calendar for everyone to be aware of and to come and partake.
My colleagues up here have pointed out many good things which all of us are questioning. This goes back to what I said during my initial presentation, and it's my commitment and my word to each and every one of you. Why not? If a story that was set up here about 6 attorneys advising the board not to publish the minutes to the residents, the board took the advice of legal counsel. Why? Why? Why aren't the minutes published? It was never made clear to me. I don't know if it was ever made clear to you. And I think that when the board makes decisions for us, we need to understand why these decisions are made. I know that when I announced my candidacy, my phone did not stop ringing with people, residents, throwing out questions to me. And I realized that I have to learn what I don't know. That for some of the things in here, if we went around the room, we don't have the answers. My commitment in closing is to get those answers for you.
I believe that the information should be available. I understand it is available at the concierge desk. Sometimes putting something out that the public can see can be detrimental to an organization. This is a very litigious society, and attorneys and people are always looking to sue, and when people sue, it will cost us money. So I think the information should be out there. I think the board maybe can do a better job saying where it is and where it's located and where people can go and view it. But I don't know, because I'm not on the board, why it's not published at every meeting. And again, until any of us are on the board, we're not going to know that. You know, I can sit up here and speculate and say, well, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do another thing. But until you're on the board, you don't know. In my current position, I've signed many non-disclosure agreements. I hear people talk about that. I don't know if it's true or it's not true that the board has to sign them, but if they do, it's because of the attorneys. And the attorneys look to protect Meadowbrook Point. And Meadowbrook Point is our investment. It's not the investment of somebody down the block. We're the people who bought here, and we're the people who want our investment to grow. So again, and I'm being very honest, I believe in transparency. Unlike Corky, I put my email address out. Nobody reached out to me, but what can I tell you? But again, I'm out there. If I'm elected, you can contact me anytime, talk to me, and I'll be more than happy. But transparency is very, very important. Either in one way or another, the information has to get out there. Thank you.
Hi, my name is... Hello, okay. My name is Carol Luffer. This is for all the candidates. Most of us moved to this community because it offered not only nice apartments and a beautiful environment, but also to participate in an enhanced lifestyle to support the health and social needs of a senior community. Because of the pandemic, many of these have come to a standstill. we have done nothing to improve the environment, and that's not true. I wrote this yesterday, but Dave explained to me today at a Board of Managers meeting that they have started doing something. Albeit a little late, but the social life we had and could have, even under the restrictions imposed by pandemic, are non-existent, basically, and the needs of many are not being met. I'd like to know, since we see no end in sight, what would each of you have done or will do to bring Meadowbrook Point back to the luxury community it was, for which we all moved here, including how you would have handled the problem with the 2 incidents that occurred where 2 board members resigned.
Okay, what I believe is that none of us were on the board, none of us can answer what went on at those meetings because we weren't there. However, to bring life back here, I believe we have to wait for the governor to lift the restrictions, or the county executive. We can't do anything here without the governor saying that we can do it, just like they delayed the schools in New York City because that's what they decided to do. So we have a limited to what we can do based on what the legalities are. We're limited as to what we can do based on the legalities of the situation. And we can open it to the clubhouse up, and they had the men's club discussion group this morning, and there were a limited number of people here. Maybe they would get more than a number of people. There hardly anybody playing, there's probably nobody playing cards upstairs because people don't want to come inside. They'll play outside. So we've got to really wait until the health issue passes in order to get some of this back together. And people walk the community all the time, and they're sitting in the gazebos, and they're socializing that way, and you have to socialize at a correct distance.
I'd like to talk about 2 things. First of all, this is a very serious virus, and what we've done is wonderful here. I don't hear of a lot of outbreaks and cases. I don't hear any of that. Keep in mind what a clever virus you're dealing with. 50% of the people that get it are asymptomatic. You know what that means for a virus? It can spread. You understand? We don't know if we have it, all right? I live this every day of my life for the last 4 to 5 months working on vaccines. I read these papers, it scares the life out of me. Lenny sent me one today that was even scarier. So that basically, I think we did a great job. The people started to walk, they sat outside, they had to do what they did. I'll tell you what's going on with the gym, because I'm co-chair of the committee. We got a brochure, and David's well aware of this. We got a brochure with 50 pages of rules. It's going to take us weeks to write out what we have to do. We brought in MERV 13 filters for the gym. Here's my problem. I don't think a MERV filter that's 13 is enough because the virus is the smallest particle we know. And I'm not sure that the air conditioning system will survive when it's got a pressure against so much blockage. So I think it's tough. I think this community deserves a hand for doing what they did. We've socially distanced. We didn't go to big parties. We tried to do the best we could do, and I think that's what's happening. I know I'm on the board of managers as well, and I know we're trying our best. That's all I can say.
I really like Carol's question. One of the things I really need to understand here a lot more, and the deeper I look into it, the more confusing it gets, but based upon what Carol said, it appears that the Board of Managers would be the ones to address that issue first, not the Board of Directors. So we need to work within our condo associations to form committees, to form plans, to go forward so that we are ready to go as soon as the governor allows us to go. We're all following rules. And again, people were talking about New York City. The mayor decided today to keep schools closed for another 11 days. I was shocked when I heard the S word from the teachers union. The S word meaning strike. I don't want you to think that I'm talking dirty up here. It's really important that we here as residents begin to develop a plan for today, tomorrow, and the future. It's really important here that we work together to develop a plan for today, tomorrow, and the future. Just to sit by, it's not going to be done. After what happened in Building 15, it's going to take us years of good PR about why Meadowbrook Point is the place to be, to make Meadowbrook Point the place to be. And that's going to require a commitment from all of us.
Hello? Okay. I think one of the things that's lacking in this community is effective committees. I know we have committees. I moved in here 2 years ago. I had no idea there were even any committees here for me to join. And that's where I think that new residents have to be treated a lot differently than they are. They come in here, they have no clue as to what's going on, and then in the age of COVID, it's getting worse and worse. I think that the building managers have to work more closely with the captains and co-captains of each building to really get this community back together again. And that has nothing to do with COVID. It can be done. There's a lot of new residents that have a lot of nice ideas, and they have no idea that there's even a committee to join. So maybe when a captain goes and says hi to a new resident and brings some cookies, maybe that captain should also say, and what committee do you want to join? Because we need as much help as we can get, especially in the age of COVID.
As I said, my wife and I moved in here in November of 2019. When we came looking at property here, the pool was open, the bar was open. We have a few friends that live here. My wife's cousins have lived here, one of the first residents. So we were excited about coming here. And then we got here and COVID hit. And we've been locked like everyone else in our apartment since March. Since March. I know firsthand, this is serious stuff. This is nothing that we want to fool around with. It attacks you, and it'll wreak havoc on you or your loved ones. So, with that said, we have to be guided by what the government tells us to do. We may not agree with it, but we have to be guided by what the government tells us to do. The board can't change anything. The board of managers can't change anything. Even the management company can't change anything. It's unfortunate, but that's the hand we were dealt, and we want to look to come out of this on the positive side, and again, keep Meadowbrook Point the place where people want to come, people want to invest their money, and people want to live here. So something will happen from a positive, but believe me, you don't want to rush it. Thank you.
We have a question here from Nancy and Jeffrey Gable for Rick Schwartz. What is your position regarding the HOA board's responsibility in timely addressing the financial matters, providing membership with a timely prepared and issued treasurer report disclosing Meadowbrook Point's restricted capital account balance, which has not been updated since 2/28/19, reflecting a balance at that time of $1,277,518.
The treasurer of the HOA, Alan Capel, who did a great job, he always presented up-to-date financial information. So that fact that it wasn't updated since then, I don't know anything about that. We were always up to date, and Alan always gave financial reports every single month. So I believe Meadowbrook's entitled, all the residents are entitled to it every month, and this is what should go on and belongs there, and everyone's entitled to.
Financials are extremely important. That money that we talk about is our money, and we want to make sure that it's managed properly, and if times maybe we have to restructure some debt we have to look at that. But it's important that that information is out there and that the board is doing the best they can to manage that money. Again, it's our money. So it's important, again, transparency, knowledge, knowing what's going on is key to any type of environment like this.
Hello. I'm not very good at this. As far as financials go, if the person who was taking care of it is no longer able to take care of it, then it's time to go on the outside and bring in somebody and pay that person and have it done properly, period. If it can't be done by the board or any of its members, it's time to pay somebody to do it. So it's done, and we all have a record of what is being done and how it's being spent.
Anybody else?
We need, as a group, to know why no one has stepped up to take his place. And we also need to know what the board has been doing up until this point to get someone to take his place. Is there anybody there? Is there going to be a committee where they're going to have a treasurer who reports to the board who's a CPA or someone with a financial background who could do the job? Or as someone just said, if they can't find someone, do they look outside or do they let the problem fester? If you look at your sink in your kitchen, the little drips turn into big drips. Little problems turn into big problems. We need someone committed to finding out why not, finding out why things can't be done, and that's what I commit and I give my word to today.
Okay. Yep, sorry.
I just want to put one word in here. First of all, I've worked with Alan Capel since we started on the Board of Managers together, and he's done an excellent job, and we should thank him. He gave up hours. He's a CPA. And we always got reports. I don't know where everyone's been, but let me explain something else that you don't seem to understand. We pay David Goldstein, and when we sit on the budget committee, everything is computerized. We see all the numbers. He is bringing together all the numbers, and then Alan and the committee work with him. So I want you to understand, we don't just pay him because he's handsome, but we pay him because he does a wonderful job on keeping track of the numbers. It's all computerized, and the budget committee, where a number of us are not accountants but are businessmen, etc., we've seen it all. Alan's done a wonderful job. So when we get to that meeting, everything is taken care of. But in case you think we don't have outside help, that's why David Goldstein is here. Remember, we have internal management, but he really runs the budgets through, collects your dues, etc. You're right, Most communities have outside accountants, and if you want to hire them, we can do that. But I think David has done an excellent job of keeping the books up to date. It's all computerized, and with Alan's help, I'm hoping there's another CPA here that wants to invest as much time as Alan did. But we certainly can go out and spend the money for an accounting firm. By the way, we can also bring in lawyers. And, the Board of Managers, Condo 4 set all these rules because we were first. And we got in lawyers, et cetera, and Alan did a wonderful job. So I just want to thank him.
As they say, my ears are burning. In case you don't know me, I'm Alan Capel. Been a long time treasurer of this organization, and due to certain actions on the board, I made the decision to resign from the board, which has led to these problems that we're having with the financial difficulties, not in but the reporting of the finances. I didn't expect to get up here and speak. I want to thank the people who thanked me because I think it's a wonderful gesture. Thank you.
Do we have any questions in this room? Anybody with a question?
Brian Rappaport, Building 8. This is directed at Rick and Larry. You're both on the Board of Managers. If you get elected to the HOA, are you prepared to give up your seat on the Board of Managers so somebody else can take over?
For those who didn't hear the question, it was for Rick Schwartz and Larry Silver, who are both on the Board of Managers, and the question was, are you willing to resign from the Board of Managers if you are elected to the Board of Directors?
The answer is yes. I already had a meeting with my other two managers on Condo 5, and I said, if I am elected, I will resign from the Board of Managers. Sorry. My belief is that you shouldn't be on both boards at the same time, and the more people we can get to work for Meadowbrook Point, the better it will be.
Well, that's a very interesting question, because in the bylaws, either set from the HOA or the Board of Managers, there's no requirement you can't serve on both boards. But I'd be glad to resign for Condo 4 if someone else wanted the position. But I've run 3 times only because they couldn't get anyone else to do it. So the truth is, if I have to stay, I'll stay if someone wants the position. But I don't think it's a bad idea. Arnie's now a director and a member of the board of Condo 2. He brings the voice of the board. Sometimes we don't know what the board is saying. Bob Gorman did the same thing when he was still on the board. He brought the voice of the board with 2 I didn't take credit for this, but there would be no Board of Managers meeting if it wasn't for me and one other person that asked, can the managers get together once a month? And the people will tell you, I do all the agendas for the Board of Managers, putting it all together. We're not an official, there's really no official meeting of the Board of Managers, all 7 condos. A gentleman that worked with me, I forgot his name now, but he's retired. But the Board of Managers, these people speak out. We just had a meeting tonight. They bring up issues that are closer to home because they live in the condos. The Board of Directors sees bigger pictures. So I would gladly resign if someone else wants it. I take hands right now.
I have a question from Harold Cherry. This question is for all candidates. In your opinion, what are the 2 most important issues facing Meadowbrook Point, and what are your plans to address them?
I think one of the biggest problems that I've been hearing lately is the resale values of your places. I've heard through the grapevine on the outside that our prices are dropping and that we can't sell them and we're not getting the prices that we want, and I don't think that that's true. So I'd like to straighten that out. I do work for Mark Donison. Right now I'm on unemployment, so I'm not working. But one of the most important things is to keep the value of your places where they are and even better, not to let them drop. So don't be concerned that much about what you hear on the outside about real estate agents telling you that your places are not worth anything and drop your prices. It's not true. Stick to your guns. It's very important that we keep the prices of Meadowbrook Point up to the standards that we have always wanted them to be at. That, to me, is a very big problem right now.
I believe that the two biggest problems are, one is openness and faster communications to the residents. I said that before. We're entitled to know what goes on, and it has to go out in a timely manner, not just go out at all. And we're putting together a manual, which I think is important because everybody will know everything that is important to know here. And it'll include a directory, but it'll also include all the rules and regulations. If anybody has any questions, they can go to this, how to get a work order, how to submit a work order, for instance. That's kind of vital for everybody because there are minor problems or major problems that come up. So I'd like to get that accomplished. We worked on it for the last year, and I'd like to continue to do that.
I think that if you're going to confine me to two major issues here, it's almost an impossibility. We have many issues that we have to address together. I said earlier about Tom Bergen having a plan, which I thought was written out beautifully, job descriptions for the people here, develop a financial plan for today, tomorrow, and the future, begin to plan for roofs being replaced, putting the funding away, the infrastructure being addressed, getting a treasurer needs to be taken care of. Having functional committees that are active and that new residents and old residents are committed to joining. Having better communication from the board to the Board of Managers, from the office to you, and that you feel comfortable enough coming to me and the other members of the community to ask questions that you are entitled to be answered. And there's no quick plan here to improve property values. None whatsoever, especially after what happened to the residents of Building 15. We have to work together to build up our reputation.
They've asked for two issues. It's funny, everyone's just said the four things I bring to the board. And one of them, of course, is maintaining property values. And I think that we've made a big stride with getting a new contractor in here. The flowers are beautiful when you drive in. Could it be better? Maybe. But it's not about just the people sitting here. It's all of you. You own this community. You have to do things to make it beautiful. The second thing I'm really worried about is the insurance problems. We keep having these floods. We have these fires. Our dues will be doubling because the insurance goes up. We have to find a solution. We were told we can't bring them all together, but that's a big problem. So I do agree, property values, because we all may want to sell someday, but I think we've taken some good steps. Thanks to Lee and the landscape committee that I worked with on them. We've done a wonderful, wonderful job of making the flowers better and making the place look better.
I want to say something else to add on. One of the things that Alan Capel did was he's had a reserve study done to replace every single thing in this community. And it was done 3 years ago, and there's one planned for this coming year. So we can make sure that we're up to date, and the the reserve fund that we have is fully funded to take care of all these problems based on the accountants who were hired by the board, but based on their studies of what they've done. So everybody is protected for that. So that's planning for the future, and it's happened before, and it's on tap for this coming year.
Thank you. Two things that we should look at. Number one is the sustainability of Meadowbrook Point. It's the brand. It's the Meadowbrook Point brand. And I've mentioned this before. When I first moved in here, people would say, oh, you're moving into Meadowbrook Point. You're moving into Meadowbrook Point. Oh, it's beautiful. I drive by, and yes, the flowers are beautiful. The grounds are beautiful. But I think you heard me say, you have to inspect what we expect as homeowners. And it's not the board of directors who should be running around, walking through buildings, going into garages. It's our management company. It's our management company. And the only name I have ever heard mentioned here is poor Matt. Everything is call Matt, call Matt, call Matt. I walk up and down the steps in my building. I'm in building 4. When a work order is generated, it should be from start to finish. You do the work, you plaster, you paint. There's plenty of spots in Building 4 where there was work done, there was no painting done. Who's following up on that? I sit in my kitchen window, I look out at Building 6 at 7:15 in the morning when the sun's out. The outside lights are still on. Who's inspecting that? All right? We talk about our property value. The first thing people see when they pull into Meadowbrook Point, we don't see it because we come in through the gate, is our security people. The nicest people in the world. But have you looked at the glass doors on that security booth? Have you looked inside it to see the wires going across? You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Our people should be branded. They should be in Meadowbrook Point branded shirts. So when someone pulls in here, they say, wow, this is a nice place. Our garage was cleaned, or they said it was cleaned. I wrote to the manager of our management company, and the person asked me what the problems were, and I said, it's still filthy. Never answered me back. I had to go to our president, and he wrote to her, and her answer was, I spoke to the maintenance people, the garage was cleaned. That is not inspecting what we expect. That person, when a resident reaches out, should have gotten back to that resident and said, let's take a look at the garage. It's the little things here that are going to cause our property value to go down. As I said, and I'll close, I'm an operational person. We have a saying in retail, retail is detail. You walk into any department store and it's lighting and it's the wow factor. That's what we want people to get when they pull into Meadowbrook Point who want to buy here, to keep our property values high. Wow, this is Meadowbrook Point. It's the attention to detail. Thank you.
I'm asking this question on behalf of Linda Abalafia, who's outside. To all candidates, it's very important to be able to read and negotiate a contract. When writing a contract with a vendor, what protocol will you follow to be sure that vendors adheres to the contract, and what will you do if the vendor does not? Who will check? Thank you.
What Larry said before was we have to have requests for proposals on everything that we do here. Larry started doing that on some pieces, and the vendors have to follow the contracts. If they don't follow the contracts, they're either out as vendors or they have to make good for whatever part they did not follow.
As I mentioned during my talk at the podium, I wrote the first RFP that was ever written here. It took me weeks. I know nothing about landscaping, so I had to research it. I had to see what other communities wrote. When we were done, it was such a tough document that some of the guys fell by the wayside. Some of the contractors couldn't do what we asked. I made sure there was mulch in every spot. I covered the kinds of flowers, not myself, but the committee. Yeah, RFPs are the answer. There are no corporations that do not work without RFPs, requests for proposals. And if you don't meet, and we did it, we eliminated the losers because they couldn't meet the requirements. Yeah, they gave us a lower price, but they weren't giving us anything we asked for. And Lee can testify to that because he was part of that committee. And we need to do that for all, I wouldn't do it for $5,000 maybe, But when they get to the hundreds of thousands, we should be writing RFPs for the pool management, for this, for that. I think that you have to understand, we're aging, and the builder kept us from getting a fund to keep, a reserve fund for many years. It's only when he left we could even start. These roofs start going. We're condos. You've got to think about all the RFPs that have to be written. And that it takes a committee, or you have to hire professionals to do it. But in either case, the other thing that no one is mentioning, the dues goes up every year. I'm not sure we can afford everything people are asking for. Additional management, additional this. I sit on the budget committee, and they complain if it goes up $10. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Well, a lot of great ideas so far. The request for proposals, great idea. Do we want it to be over 5, over 10? I think that whatever we do going forward, we should clearly understand as a community what we're supposed to get. Built into the contract will be what's expected if we're unhappy because they're not delivering on services which we're paying for, and a way to terminate the contract if they fail to provide services. And again, the best way to do this is beyond my skill set. However, the skill set is out here, and the knowledge isn't in one person. The knowledge comes from all of us. And it's time to get a sharp price the way Len did, and the person who did the proposal so that some of the other people dropped out. That's one thing. We need 10 of those going forward.
I'm not an attorney, but I have common sense. And common sense tells you that every single thing that you want in a contract has to be put in the contract. And it must be in writing, and that's where common sense comes in. If you don't see something that you've requested in writing on the contract, you don't sign it. It's the same as any contract that you come across every day, whether you lived in your house and you had a contract with your gardener. If the gardener didn't perform all the duties that were listed in the contract, you get rid of the gardener. That's the end of it. So to me, common sense comes into play, and I think that's one very important thing that might be missing, and I have it.
Thank you. The proposal is the foundation when work is to be done. Coming from a large corporation, we don't buy paper towels without having it in writing what should be done and what we expect. With that said, I'll give you a couple of examples where I can see some improvement. When my wife and I moved in, we wanted to have some extra bins put in our parking spot. We have 2 spots. We dropped off a check. And again, Matt was the person. Poor Matt, are you the only one that works here, Matt? And we dropped the check off. We finally got the bins. Matt called. The bins are going to go in this day. I went down to the garage, and our vendor was there. And again, I talk about retail as detail and inspect what you expect. He was putting the first bin up, and it wasn't even with the bin next to it or the other bins in the garage. And I said to him, "That's not even." He looked at me and he shrugged his shoulder and he said, "I don't have my jack." Well, how can you come to a job and not have your jack? All right, I called Matt. Matt had him come back the next day. He installed the bins. He left all the dirt on the floor in the garage. None of us, anybody out there too, would hire a painter, a carpenter, an electrician who doesn't clean up after they do the job. Companies coming in to do work with Meadowbrook Point have to know there's standards here, and the standards need to be enforced by our management company. If they're not, it's our money that's being wasted. Again, it's detail. It's inspecting what we expect. Thank you.
I have a question here from Luella Russo. For all candidates, do you recognize and what would you do to bridge and improve the relationship between the board and the residents of this community? This is a fundamental jump off point that is essential in opening up a civilized line of communication that will allow for things getting done and eliminate the adversarial tone that has become so unpleasant and counterproductive at Meadowbrook Point. Thank you.
What I would do is I would have more communication, quicker communication, as I've said.
I think you're going to see a change if we have open meetings. We allow them, at least quarterly. You get up, you speak. I know eventually, 5 years from now, no one will show up at those meetings, but in the beginning you get a good response because I've lived through it, and we were able to do that, and that's how we can get better communication. There is a problem here, of course, because some people won't give their names. You know, everyone's called resident in this community, so I can't identify who I'm talking to. Don't be afraid to give your name. No one's going to hurt you. My name is Larry Silver, and I'm willing to tell you that. Just don't come to my house. My wife is a lot tougher than I am. But the bottom line is, give your name. It's not we can open communication. We can't have this hidden stuff. If you have a problem, bring it to someone that can do something about it. Don't just keep writing about it. No one's going to eat you up. I can't throw you out of here, and you can't throw me out. We're all in this together. Please remember that. It's not us against you or us against anyone. It's all of us benefit by having the correct management. So I don't know that the problem could be solved by open meetings where you can get up and speak. And when you do that, a lot more will get done. I saw it happen in my last community. I know it can happen here. Thank you.
One of the things that I found through the many phone calls and emails that I received was that I couldn't answer all of the questions yet. And I have to learn that there are things which I don't know, and being a new board member, there are going to be many things that we must learn if we are to be successful. We have to commit to being a good listener and to feel that no idea put forth or no complaint put forth should just be rejected at hand. And if the complaint were to be rejected, you have to understand why it's being rejected. And if it's being rejected, maybe after the person explains to you and gives you more information, you'll say, boom, now I understand. I want to understand with you.
I don't believe in cover-ups, and I think that has become a big problem here. So I believe in informing the community of anything that's going on, any wrongdoings, any good doings, but I don't believe in covering it up and making believe that it didn't happen. So the thing that I would bring to the board is a lot of honesty and giving the residents all the information that they deserve. We're very intelligent people that live here. We deserve to know what's going on. And by covering up, it only makes things worse, which I have seen happen in the last few months. So honesty, no cover-ups, bring it out in the open and take care of the problem, and so that people are not going around with rumors and making up stories and being unhappy. My proposal is to get everything out in the open and be honest and fair.
As I said when I first spoke, and I put in my resume when I put out that I wanted to be a board member, about my integrity. I've dealt with people in New York City, across the country, and one thing they can always say, and that's why Macy's has me in the job, I have integrity. And I cannot afford not to have integrity. That's not the way I was brought up. So, were there some issues? Yes, there were some issues. Did some great people maybe have a lapse in judgment? Yes, but those people did do a lot of good things for Meadowbrook Point. But unfortunately, if I was on the board, I would have voted that they have to leave. And I stand behind that. As far as I think the word was used, dissension, and I'll use the word, we have a blog. This is the 21st century. Unfortunately, every place has a blog. There's something going on. On Thanksgiving Day, we have to have our social media people in to answer tweets people put up about the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Why is Snoopy not as white as he used to be? Or we don't like his hat. That's just society. But what I'm going to say is, identify yourself. If you have an issue, don't stay behind a screen name. You want to get it out, because all that does is cause dissension. We all know, and I was, I think, the only one who answered the questions from the blog, and I answered them, and I was expecting to get a lot of response. I got no one who said a word to me other than the gentleman that runs the blog. All right? So if you know anything about blogs, it's the same people complaining all the time, and they hide behind their names and they say there's no one qualified to be on the board of Meadowbrook Point, or we should have a CEO type person here at Meadowbrook Point. Well, I work for a CEO who ran Macy's that put us into bankruptcy. So there's a lot of good people who know what they're doing, and we need to have open lines of communication. And you're always going to have the people on the blogs who are never happy. They could be on the board and they'll find fault with it. That's just the way it is. But open lines of communication is extremely, extremely important, as is integrity. Thank you.
A question for Walter Avelin. Cite two specific deficient actions or non-actions of the present Board of Directors that you would seek to remedy as soon as you are elected, from Howie Siegel.
As I said, whatever happened during the COVID happened, and I think integrity is extremely important, so everyone on the board should have integrity. It's a shame what happened, and people say there's secret things going on, but the board has to be beyond reproach. As I said, I'm a chairperson of a Catholic academy in Flushing. We deal with a lot of issues, but everyone on the board is beyond reproach. Things happen, we try to fix it, but if we can't fix it, decisions have to be made, and sometimes they're not palatable decisions, but the decisions have to be made. So it's integrity, always moving forward. And I forgot what was the second question. One of the things is, and again, I'm going to say this for the last time, our management company, the people that are here every day, they should be walking the community, looking at what's going on, look at the American flag the next time you pull in, all right? Nobody looks at it. It's worn, it's tattered. Let's get a new flag. Again, when people pull in here to buy property here, those are the things, it's the little things that could cost you to lose some money. Thank you.
One of the things that I would want to know, not only for myself, but for all of you, what should our expectations be for the Board of Directors? A clear understanding of what the Board of Directors is responsible for. And that ties into another issue here. It's understanding what the Board of Managers' responsibilities are and how the Board of Managers' responsibilities differ from the Board of Directors. Also to understand, and I've touched upon two things, the people in the office who, to me, are hardworking, lovely people who have been there for my wife and I. Something many of you don't know, we had a power outage here recently, and I called Matt in the office, said to him, do you know how long, Matt, the electricity is going to be out for? He said, Corky, just come over with Elaine, the generator's working. She had to hook up to the generator to power her oxygen machine. He remembered. I mean, my heart went out, I could have cried. Imagine being here for a long period of time. Imagine being here during the night. And again, this is from the office. They reassured me that if it ever happened during the middle of the night, we could call security and they would open the door for us. Again, I don't know how many people here have life support systems in their home for loved ones. These are things that we should all know about and know some of the good things that are being done in the office, which very few people hear about.
Our final question, which was submitted to our question box, is a question for Rick Schwartz. In as much as the following New York State guidelines for indoor pools include adequate ventilation, individuals maintaining 6 feet of social distancing at a time, and no more than 2 people allowed in a lane at one time, none of the restrictions seem compatible with playing volleyball. As co-chair of the Water Volleyball Club, what was your rationale, A, for using the indoor facility, B, what research went into that decision, and C, did you give any thought as to how this would look to your fellow Meadowbrook residents? Thank you in advance for your response. Bunny Jaffe. Bunny Jaffe.
The answer is that the board of directors told me that it was okay to play volleyball, so therefore we played. We did not play until they said it was okay. And for everybody's information, everybody was social distanced. I eventually spoke to the Department of Health. They said you couldn't have more than 10 people in the pool. I said there were 7, and they were more than 6 feet apart. And the problem was that the problem why you can't play volleyball is because person A passes the ball to person B, different household, and therefore they said that's the problem. But as far as being in the pool, it was fine.
Do we have any further questions from anybody either inside or outside?
This is really my name is Marty Carfinkel, I'm in Building 50. This is really a question for the board, but Rick Schwartz, since you've been addressing this issue about the volleyball and whether it can be used for volleyball or not for volleyball, my question is, if the pool is able to be used, but not for volleyball because we can't touch the ball, why can't it be used for the residents on days when the weather is not good and they can keep social distancing? They can allow 4 or 6 people in the pool at a time, for an hour at a time, and then it gets switched off to other people. Why can't the indoor pool be utilized instead of just put aside now since we can't play volleyball?
I don't have any idea about that because I know nothing about the running of pools and the regulations of pools, and I followed what I was told. And if it could be opened, I guess it could be opened, and if it can't be opened, then I don't know why. But I didn't ask. When I was told not to play volleyball, then we stopped, and we never did it again, and I didn't question it.
I don't think I have the answer for you either, but I want to tell you something you better know about COVID viruses. They're 20 times more effective at getting you sick indoors and outdoors. Obviously, the reason is the air movement, etc., And by the way, high humidity makes the virus more deadly, not less deadly. So that there may be some regulation about indoor pools I'm not aware of, but everything we could do, I know they left the doors open here, everything we could do outdoors, we should do. Should do very little indoors if you don't have to. I'm sure many of you have gone to restaurants and decide to sit outside rather than inside, and you're doing the right thing. Again, I want to compliment the community, because if we didn't have any major outbreaks here, this is a bad, bad virus, and it's going to be a while before a vaccine makes us all better. Take my word for it. You have no idea what's going on unless you really get involved with it, all right? So I think the indoor pool is a great idea, but I bet you we can't get 6 people in here. I bet you maybe you could put 2 in the pool at a time, because it's not that big a pool, and it probably only has 2 or 3 lanes. So please, before we ask for things, let's consider our own health. We're in the population that suffers from this virus the most. And if you've noticed what's happened with kids going back to school, the outbreaks in some states have been 11% among young kids. Look what happened at Alabama. The first week, 1,200 students got COVID. Notre Dame, 147 students got COVID. We're doing a great job. Let's keep it up. I don't really know why we can't. I would love to see the indoor pool open as well. I don't. No, I agree, and that's one of the things I insisted when we opened the gym, is that the windows be left open, because you need the fresh air.
Again, we have to be guided by what the government is telling us to do. With that said, if we can't open for everyone, then we need, unfortunately, to make a decision that if we can only open for one club and we can't open for another club, is that fair to everybody? So you have to look at the fairness, you have to look at the health issues. And again, this virus will attack you, and I don't care about hearing about a certain age group. I've known people who are a lot younger who are not here today because of this virus. So again, difficult times. We don't know what's going to happen, and we just have to do what we think is prudent, what the Department of Health is telling us, and what is fair to the community.
If the gym was not allowed to be open, then the pool was not allowed to be open, period. I think it was ill-conceived, and I think it was presumptuous to think that that pool could be used for volleyball, period. It was wrong, and if we can't come out and say it, I'll say it. It was wrong. The ventilation, the HVAC systems are not up to code. Read the mandates, read what the governor says, and you could never think that you could open that pool, period. You can't open the gym, you can't open the pool. It's the same system that's governing both of them. So as far as I'm concerned, it was wrong, it should not have taken place, and you have to take responsibility for errors. And that's what I mean by cover-ups. If you would only come out and say, the volleyball took place, it was wrong, we're sorry, it will never happen again, we didn't read the mandates, we didn't see what the governor said, period. I just don't get it. It was downright wrong, and if you can't admit it, and social distancing for volleyball? Are you kidding me? How can there be social distancing?
Well, I'm going to be brief. These 2 events can only make us stronger as a community. It shows that whether you're a new resident, a longtime resident, there are rules that have to be followed, and you have an obligation to other homeowners here to use common sense. It's evident to everybody sitting in the room that common sense was not used by the people who were involved in those activities. They put not only their own lives at risk, but all the people who they come in contact with the course of the day. and that just isn't fair.
Do we have any further questions? Thank you, everybody, for coming. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to all the candidates for Condo 3 Board of Managers. We really do appreciate it. It was very great seeing all of you today. If anybody has any questions about the application for the presidential election, the absentee ballots, Sue Watkins is here in the front. She's happy to answer any of those questions for you.